In this video, I'm going to go through the story behind IceBreaker Performance, why I started remote training, why I believe the things I do so passionately, and what inspired me to believe those things through my playing career and my coaching career. All right, so early on in my life, I knew I was passionate about baseball. It was always the thing that was very important to me and that I spent the most time on. And unfortunately for me, I was not the star player all the time, and I was not the kind of guy that everybody knew was going to be a high-level college or professional player from the get-go. I was a backup catcher in high school. I rode the bench a lot, but I was the kind of guy that was always very motivated, very coachable, would do things right, and was a very hard worker. So as a hard worker and as a guy that was outworking guys that he played with, practiced with, played against, I was still stuck. I wasn't an elite player. I wasn't having colleges calling my phone, asking me to come play for them and giving me scholarship money. I was really grinding it out and trying to find ways to be as good as I possibly could be without a ton of raw natural talent. And for most of my young career, I believed that my effort was going to separate me. My effort was going to, in the long run, put me ahead of other guys that weren't training as hard as I was, didn't care as much as I did, didn't sacrifice off the field as much as I did for baseball. But what I learned was that hard-headed approach of working really hard and putting my nose in the dirt and just grinding it out could get me somewhere, but not where I wanted to be. And ultimately, it led me to a lot of injuries in my college career. I ended up getting 2 arm surgeries pretty much back to back. I had a labrum surgery. Once I went through the full rehab of that, was starting to get back to my form beforehand. Then I tore my UCL and then had to do another full rehab for that. And through that process of rehabbing, understanding that the way I was training not only was not getting me the results performance-wise, but was putting me on the shelf, I realized that's when I probably need to change something. And so it was after my second arm surgery that I realized something needed to change, and the approach I was taking was not going to work for me because I looked around and there was a lot of guys that were in similar situations to me. They worked really hard, they did all the things that the coaches asked for them, and then they get on the field and they weren't very good. And I realized that maybe it's not actually just work ethic that makes you into a great baseball player, but there's something else to it. And so I realized the guys that I was playing against that were kicking my ass, the guys I was playing with that were taking my playing time, those guys all had personal coaches that they were working with. They all had guys and mentors that were teaching them things that I didn't have access to because I was only going to my coaches at school or with my team that I was playing for. And so at the end of the day, I was working hard, but my hard work was being applied to very average coaching and coaching that you can find in any facility, in any team, at any school. There wasn't something that really differentiated me from the rest of the country. And so that's when I decided to go get a mentor that was truly high quality, knew what it took to get where I wanted to get to, and could teach me how to do it. And I got on a plan that for the first time in my life actually was encompassing more than just practicing drills or just doing a generic weight training plan. I was doing something that was balanced all around. I was doing experimental drills with my throwing that were maybe a little bit out of the norm. I was lifting way heavier than I ever had before. I was focusing on the things at home that actually mattered, like my sleep, my nutrition, my stress management, all kind of things like that. And so when I combined that really good mentorship and plan with a really good work ethic that I had built up through years and years of just grinding, that's when it really started to click and I saw rapid performance very quickly. I went from 87-ish miles an hour to about 94 miles an hour in a year. I put on 20 pounds of muscle mass. I was moving faster than I ever had before. My arm felt better than I ever had before. And that's when it really clicked to me how important the right plan can be for an athlete. There are so many guys that work their tail off, that want it more than anybody else, but don't make success and don't make gains because they are held back by the actual information they are getting and the plan they're getting. Because at the end of the day, you're a player, you're not a coach. It's not your job to necessarily design the most masterful plan. And yes, you should have a say in what you're doing, but really you guys want to just go out and execute. You want to play. And so I realized that was the same case with me. I just wanted to do things to the best of my ability. And when they were laid out for me and made it easy for me, I could do them even better with better detail and better success. And so a lot of this realization and my transformation made me want to get into coaching when I was done playing. And so I started to see these same patterns when I got into coaching as well. At first, I was just doing lessons with high schoolers locally, and eventually I went into college baseball, and I noticed it there. I noticed that there's really not that much of a difference in the routine and the knowing what they're doing when it comes to high school players versus college players. A lot of those college players that high school guys look up to really don't know why they do the things they do. They've just kind of been ingrained to do them through other coaches. And then when I got hired by the Astros after about a year of coaching college baseball, I noticed the exact same things, even with professionals. They were way more talented. They worked just as hard, but they didn't actually come in with a plan completely dialed in. They were really good at certain things. They kind of had like outlier characteristics about them, whether that's strength, mobility, mechanics, those kind of things were kind of taken care of before they got to pro ball. But what made the guys in pro ball take off and shoot up the system really fast and get to the big leagues is actually dialing in their routine, getting all the different factors lined up so that they can have the most success without having to be overloaded trying to figure it all out themselves. And that's the beauty of pro ball. With more resources, they are able to get more things in line because they have more people around them supporting them. And so at all levels, I noticed talented guys that were failing and getting passed up because they didn't have a good direction, or they had a direction and weren't able to actually stick to it and be disciplined. And it was more common for those guys to fizzle out the higher level they got to because their talent didn't mean as much. It didn't make them as much of an outlier. And there were guys that were less talented at all of these levels that outperformed the more talented guys and made it further in their career than the more talented guys because they had better structure, they had a better idea of what they were doing, and probably had better guidance. And so through all this experience, I learned that most athletes don't fail from a lack of effort. They fail because they never found the right path. And so that's when I decided to create IceBreaker Performance, because I wanted to provide that guidance and structure that I didn't have early on in my career that would have probably changed my life. If there's a hungry pitcher out there that wants to get to the big leagues but doesn't know how, I want to be able to provide them with individualized training plans, accountability, data that helps them, all the kind of things that are going to actually move the needle and get them where they want to get to. Because as a baseball player trying to play pro ball, you're on the clock, and the younger you are when you can provide value to an organization, the more monetary value they see, and the more likely they are to draft you and to give you big money. And so I started this remote training system to give professional quality guidance to anybody in the world. And it's a system that's based off of my coaching experience with over 50 high schoolers, 100 college guys, over 100 pro guys, and 12 big leaguers. And so the mission is to break limitations, shatter ceilings, and transform careers. We want to give our athletes real development opportunities and empower them to be able to chase professional baseball and go all in for their dream. Because it's really hard to go all in for your dream if you're scatterbrained and you don't have a clear direction and plan. The goal is to build complete pitchers who are resilient, who are powerful, and they understand that if they combine their elite work ethic with really good direction and really quality guidance, that's where breakthroughs happen, and that's where dreams can be accomplished. So if you want to be a part of it, book a call today and get started.